What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Behind the Door. How's it go? My name is Brandon Brown, here with my esteemed co-host Jeremy Hiltz. And today, I think, I really want to get into the story, Jeremy, of like not just how you created RCOM, because I know in past episodes we've talked a little bit about it, but really how you turned it into a successful business, because you went from an idea, a recognition that treatment should look different based on your lived experience. But now I look at RCOM and we have so many friends that you employ and so many people whose lives are like dramatically positively affected by coming through this program. And I've been thinking about this lately, like a lot of people coming home from prison, want to start their own thing, very similar to what you did, whether it's, they have a skill in construction, or it's something in recovery, or it's a nonprofit working with youth, or, there could be a million different things, but a pathway for a lot of people that they recognize is to be, like a founder of something and have their own business. And I'm just really interested to dig more into the story about how you created an actual successful business model here. And I think, one of the questions I just have for you is, can you tell us a little bit more about the story from when you started off and it was just you and one other person doing kind of like one-on-one counseling with folks, to the point where you had, 5 or 6 employees? What was that pathway? What was that trajectory like? And where was your mind at in terms of saying this has got to be something that's profitable, but also that really does a positive service for people that I interact with?
Yeah, no, this is, well, it's funny that, so I am an entrepreneur at heart, you know what I mean? I'm a builder and I'm a creator, you know what I mean? I know that about myself. It's one of the things that I like, um, realized early on in my recovery is that, like, I'm a builder and understanding that even when I was I went to, in my personal recovery, I went to the Correctional Recovery Academy, and that's where I, just learned to be that I could actually. I didn't know what that looked like at the time, but I did know that, like, I left there with some confidence in myself, right? But more importantly, I think, to get to the place that there was 2 people in a room, doing when we started Recovery Connections of Maine. So for those of you who don't know, currently we have Recovery Connections of Maine is an addiction treatment center, mental health clinic in Lewiston, Maine. Right now, currently, our services include so about 4 years ago, there was about 6 recovery residences in Lewiston, Auburn, and we have established 72. Um, and primarily, a lot of the work that we've done has been with corrections. Um, so we've had a lot of folks that have come to us on home confinement. They go through our program, they live in our house, and then they come to treatment, and we help them with vocational services and really trying to help them move along and get their own place and set them up to be where they want to be in their lives. And then we were able to expand to a woman's house, and we're expanding services there next. And we have a intensive outpatient program. We also were really proud that we started the Travis Collins House, which is a 6-month residential treatment program for men, um, which has been they do tremendous work down there, and I'm really proud of the program itself. But it is um, I am, but on top of I guess underneath of all that, though, I have been an entrepreneur, yeah. And I think the entrepreneurial spirit, though, it didn't start last month, you know what I'm saying? So I think, one of the most important things in my journey and when you are an entrepreneur is that you get knocked down and you lose way more than you win. That is like, if you talk to any successful business person, they will tell you that they were gonna lose more than they won. They've started and failed way more than they've been successful. They might have if you try 10 things, 2 of them might be successful, you know what I'm saying? And that is a hard life lesson.
Yeah.
And now I'm saying this because it's in particular for guys, because like me, I did my time and I am a creator. That means I am a visionary. I think, you know what I'm saying? So, like a lot of us, we daydream, quite a bit, right? Like things are gonna go this particular
Yeah, we
way.
have it
What
all
about
planned out
we have it
perfectly,
all
yeah.
planned out perfectly, right? And then, and then you end up getting out, and then the whole thing is like nothing you actually planned was gonna go according to plan, you know what I mean? And if it does, it's a rare it's good, but it's also very, very rare. And so, like, life itself is going to beat you up a little bit, like, you're gonna fail. So, I, knew early on that, I wanted to start a program that, not only, was it needed, but I could also support myself while I was doing it, you know what I'm saying? I was doing the work, and that is one thing in this line of work that you have to be able to fund a program. It has to be sustainable, not only for myself, but, like, everybody that's involved in that, and that's a responsibility, right? So you have to be financially sound in order to move the thing forward, right? And so that is where the business principles come in, and that's where, like, we talk a lot about education here. And so there's a saying, I think it was George Washington, he said, "If you give me 8 hours to cut down a tree, I'm gonna spend 7 hours sharpening the axe."
Yeah.
Right? Like, because it only takes a little bit of time to actually to cut the tree down, but it's all the preparation that goes into it. You have to have your I's dotted and your T's crossed, and there's a period of time to become, sustainable. And, like, part of how I built the business itself and the model that we have been created is I donated a lot of time to make it a valuable service, you know what I mean? Like, in our network, in our relationship with the Department of Corrections, that was, like, built on, "Okay, I can see where this is going. I have to put the footwork in. I have to keep showing up to do that," right? But, does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's important. I think that's a really important thing to name because I think a lot of people first of all, I just wanna name also that, like, one of the things I noticed when I was in prison is how brilliant people are at figuring out how to make the most out of very little, right? The amount of sustainable small businesses that I witnessed unfold in prison, some nefarious and some not nefarious at all, but the point is that the way that people were able to create something out of nothing. I mean, I know a guy in prison who literally made thousands of dollars a month selling lollipops that he made out of Jolly Ranchers and atomic fireballs and like whatever he could find for a stick, right? Whether it was plastic spoon bases or whatever. And I remember while I was in prison being astonished at like the amount of effort and planning and like business model mentality that went into these small ventures for people in prison just to be able to support themselves and live in the environment. But when I hear you talk about a major difference between when you come out of prison and you want to start something that's sustainable and it's profitable, especially if you want to do something that offers a service, it's not just about the idea. It's also about how you put it into action. It's about how you respond to
Well, we
hardship, how
also
you
have
get
to
up.
you have to, understand your trade. You have to have the trade. You have to understand that, like, if I'm coming out of prison, I was not participating in that trade.
Yeah.
If we have a passion about something, if there's a business that we believe is going to work, we have to be willing to go, "Okay, I'm gonna work." Because I started out, I was going to school, working a full-time job at the same time, and then, you know what I mean? You work your way up. I was entry-level job, and then I was working on the side on top of that to get to everything is about the next level. It's about the next step. It's about saving and building for the next step. But it also is about that this is like just, I guess, laying the foundation, right, to how the business is actually run on a daily basis because Then you have to learn how to manage people. You also have to look at people differently. Uh, uh, and I don't say this in any kind of disrespectful way, but it's actually a positive thing is that like people are resources in the field that I work in, right? Like the people that are employed by Recovery Connections of Maine are that's how if we don't have them, we can't fulfill our job.
Somebody on.
And you also can't fulfill your mission if people don't believe in what you're doing, right? So that has to be backed up statistically. It has to be backed up with the way, and people have to be reimbursed according to and it has to be profitable,
Yeah.
right? Like that you still have to maintain profitability. So there's a balance there that you have to learn. There's an education to that. You know what I mean? It's not just something that you do. And then there's, the other things like there's this. Well, I can tell you this is that the application process. So how it really started for me is I got into the field. So I learned the trade. Right, I learned the trade, and as that process was unfolding, I was actually, I was working, entry level in the field, and I was looking around and I'm like, I believe that I could actually do this and I could do it well from a business standpoint. And then I started to do my research on how that could happen for me, right?
What did that research look like for you? Because like a lot of times, I think there's two different types of people. Like there's people that learn from asking questions of other people, and then there's other people who learn from like really digging in, like getting on the internet, learning about all the different applications and licenses and all that. But I know that for a lot of people, I think for most people, a network is the most valuable thing that you can have. And I hear you talk about how like you made relationships in that beginning phase where you had the idea with whether it was with the Department of Corrections or other professionals in the field. And so where did you gather the majority of the information from? Was it people or was it like independent research you were doing?
It was directly from I actually listened to the people that I was, working with, and they actually told us what it is that they wanted that they weren't getting, and then we build a model around that, right? And so now it becomes successful because you also have a sustainable business model, right? When it's based on the needs of people. Like, one of the things we added to our program, just 2 real important things, right? We contracted with B Street Health Clinic. They provide primary care out of our office, out of substance. We just also contracted with a community dental down the street. They're gonna prioritize clients coming from our program down there, so they're gonna be able to get their dental needs met 3 days a week. You know what I'm saying? But that's based on that need. So in terms of a sustainable business model, if people's needs are being met, you're providing a service to them, right? And then there's the thing, and so like you also from an entrepreneurial standpoint, it's like how do you retain your customer base, right? And the way you do that is to provide a quality service.
That's not offered by everybody else
It's
and
not,
makes you
but in
attractive.
order to do
Yeah.
that though, because everybody has a good idea,
Yeah.
but how do you actually carry that out is two different things, right? So that's where you got to go. Okay, I got to get an education in this. I got to figure this. I have to find the education. And that education though can come from a multitude of ways, whether it's this business or another business. But the education has to be there. And like a lot of people that I've seen will skip over some of these steps. You also have to be able to sacrifice the time because in the beginning, I tried to start a treatment center for the 4th time at work, 3 different times. I have an old sign in my basement to this day that says it's inside out counseling. So that was the first one that I tried to do. And I remember the first time they got the licensor came up, he said, "You're not ready for this.
Yeah.
You're not ready. Like you should like just be in private practice for," and then I try to get business loans, and then what I mean, the last minute you don't do because something's not right, and it's because everything that's what I'm saying, and then every time you gain experience,
Yeah.
every
A
time.
failure is not a failure if you
It's not a
learn
failure, you
something
can't
from it.
get discouraged, you figure out the next way, and then the next way, and then next thing you know, you have something that works.
So I think that's a really important thing to kind of like key in on is, you said at the very beginning that one of the most important things that anybody looking to go into the business for themselves can understand is that you're going to fail more than you're going to succeed, especially early
You're gonna
on.
get beat up, there's no business owner that to be honest, business owners do well, and because they take the risk and they have to make the sacrifice. No one cares about the business more than the business owner. That's the way it should be, right?
And so how when like when you're talking about that first attempt to start an actual like counseling service like organization business, you had the licensing person tell you that you're not ready for it. And so I'm just thinking in my mind that, one thing that I see a lot of people doing is when they get that critical feedback, they take it so personally as if it's like an attack. And then that is the reason that they almost give up or like say it's not going to work out. But what you were able to do is actually say, this person's telling me that I'm not ready, which means there's something missing, which means I need to figure out what's
What I
missing.
needed to do to get
Yeah.
ready. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then like I also was important for me to find people to do. I knew I could not run that business on my own,
Yeah.
right? So like people, I started talking to people that were in the field, like um we have multiple people that work for us right now that worked we all worked at another place together, and then we all came back together. So people that are operating the program right now, we started together a long time ago. So the network of people was super, and the network in the community, the way the city receives us, the way the Department of Corrections has received us, was all based on the relationship, right? So, like, starting a business is it's one thing, right? But, like, to make it successful, to get to a place that's like, okay, you wanna take it to the next level, you keep taking it to the next level. It's about learning from the mistakes as you go along, but also being able to manage the financial responsibility of that.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, people that get out of prison, I've seen the most, they start getting money in their pocket, and then it's off to the races sometimes.
And they forget that I mean, that's a huge part of it, like, if you start a successful business, it's one thing when it's you and another person and the finances are not complicated, but when you've got 15 employees and
Well,
you
not only 15 employees, but I was also able to get into the real estate. So I own multiple properties. But to do that, you also have to continue to invest your money the right way. But for a lot of people that are in prison, like we come out, we say, I need I'm gonna be successful right now. And I and they and a lot of guys in the tree business, I see multiple guys get out and they start cutting trees down. They start making thousands of dollars, and the next thing you know, they're gone. They're back in prison because they got tens of thousands of dollars real quick, or they start businesses and they get it's like they don't know how to handle that money. They're not disciplined enough yet to handle the money. So this is why the grind is so important. Because I did not start making money on, like, I had actually struggled a great deal for a long time to actually become somewhat successful in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to continue the grind is like, so I have to be disciplined in how I budget my money and where it's going. How am I allocating the funds? Like the taxes, the insurance, like all those things are the most important. You know what I mean? But the way we invest our money in is also super important. But it's a disciplined thing. It takes a long, long time to get to where you got to go. I mean,
Yeah, I think another thing too, like, because, when you brought up, like, the tree thing, and I'm thinking about a lot of people I've seen come home and do construction, and I'm thinking about a lot of friends that I know who are in recovery, who have started cleaning businesses or, all these other businesses that, like you said, very clearly fulfill a need that people have that's not going anywhere anytime soon, and so, like, that foundational piece is there. It's well thought out, it's important, but one of the things that I'm hearing you say that I've seen too is, when people start making money and they start realizing like, oh, I'm doing, 3 jobs making this amount of money. If I can do 6 jobs and double my money. And another part of it is like we start to think about just how much money we can make, to the point that I've seen people and I'm like, why don't you hire a couple people? And they're like, because if I hire people, I'm not going to make as much money. But I'm like, you're not going to do as much work. You're going to make free money. Right. So you're going to
That's
pay
the
that
fast money.
person.
That's fast money. There's a different, and I think the mindset to become successful and like to create stability financially, it can't be fast. The grind has to be, to me, it's like the grind, so there was there was somebody I talked to that has had done very, very well in business. They made a career out of buying businesses, right? He told me early on that there was no substitute for sweat equity.
Yeah.
So the sweat equity is doing the work without the investment. I started this company without a business loan.
Yeah.
I was in private practice, and I built my client base through private practice. And so I was doing the work, and then so I went through the application process with the state, and I got through that. But one of the things that's interesting is that like I learned really the state forms and stuff like that, the way the language on the forms and stuff like that was not foreign to me because I was a product of the state, so filling out those applications was really easy. Like it was like a write-up appeal form almost. You know what I mean? Like and you just had to plug your information in there. And you had to really be like, okay, I'm gonna take a risk because the worst that I'm starting at no.
Yeah.
So it's like about taking the risk and like believing in yourself and like saying, okay, if this doesn't work out, like I'm not going backwards. It's just like I'm gonna find another way forward. You know what I mean? And this is like something that and I think when you're operating from a place of integrity, that path is always clear. It's always in front of you. And it's just about like slowing down at times and like understanding like when I need help with something. Like what I've tried to do from a business perspective is bring is have people way smarter than me that surrounds our like I'm not our executive director Victor Duma, he's a guy that was with us back in before we started, and he is way smarter than I am. You know what I'm saying? At things that I'm weak at, he's like he fills that in. That's been a philosophy that has served me well. Is like we find people that are good at things that we're not good at, and then we stay in our lane.
And I think that's something important that you said earlier too, to really just kind of come back to like put the exclamation point on that point, is like, when you're starting a business and when you're trying to run a successful and profitable business, it's really about the skills that people bring to the business. And I've also seen people that are like, oh, I want to bring my friends on, I want to give them the opportunity. It's all like their heart is in the right place. But if people don't have the skill set that's necessary to do the work, and exactly what you said, to complement where you lack, so that you can learn from them and they can learn from you. And as you continue learning, because you brought people on who were more knowledgeable about something than you, now everybody's learning together, and it's just going to naturally grow the business together, because you're creating those skills and those mentalities and that knowledge that you need. And it's like it kind of, when you say it out loud, it almost sounds like kind of shitty. Like, I have to bring people into my business that bring value to it. But that's what business is. It's about
It also
fulfilling needs and
creates a
having
healthy
value.
environment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like a healthy environment to have people understand the roles that they play,
Like,
right?
if you start the tree cutting business, you don't wanna bring in a guy who's never used a chainsaw. And if you do bring him in, you don't wanna put him on the chainsaw. If you
You
bring
get
him in
the
because he's,
person that knows what they're
yeah, if
doing.
he's business savvy, then you meet with him outside of cutting trees to
And
say, "How can we
to be quite
expand?"
honest, the only way you become successful in business is to um, not you're not the you have to pay someone to do the work for you.
Yeah.
at less of a rate than you do it for yourself so that you make a profit off of the service. I mean, that's really how healthcare works, how everything works. It's how barter and trading works. It's how our society works. But the cool thing about it is I learned early on that I am the resource. Like I have been the resource and professionally and it be I learned a lesson along the way where I put misplaced loyalty into you know what I mean? And that led to poor business decisions, right? Because you're hiring my license to come in to and serve your business, right? That's the service. Like if you call, you know what I mean? A refrigerator repairman. You hire somebody that knows how to do refrigerator repair, and then you know what I mean? You would say it. So that's one thing that, like, when I was doing it in private practice, then I said, okay, if I hire somebody to see these people, boom, and then that's where it started to happen. Then I can hire somebody else, and the service begins to grow. And having an accountant, an attorney, and all that stuff is if you want to be in a. I also see a lot of people try to pay people under the table and do that and avoid taxes and
Keep
stuff like
things
that.
on your own.
Like you have to pay the taxes, you have to get the insurance, you have to get the good insurance, you have to get all this stuff because eventually something will happen and you have to be prepared for that. So you also have to understand that I have to have reserves and or say something happens, how am I going to pay my employees, right? Like there's just so many different variables to that. You have to move up in levels to be
Yeah, you
able to
can't
get
cut
there.
corners, and I think that is something that we get used to doing, that the system teaches us is how can we cut corners and kinda, manipulate certain things to make things easier, and,
Well,
you
I've got
know
out of prison and been like, "Man, I need to be successful right now because I'm so far behind everybody in my life." But it's it's the tortoise and the hare scenario, right? It's like, who's gonna okay, the tortoise is moving slow, but they get to the finish line first every time. You know what I mean? Because the hare's all over the place, man. The hare's running all over the place, but the tortoise is easy as she goes, man, and you get there. But understanding that businesses are in 5, 10, 15-year plans is, the most important thing, and, sharpening the axe before you cut down the tree is the most important, and, having all your ducks in a row and being confident that having a good business plan is, the most you know what I mean? But that is all things you can learn. It's all about the education, right? It's
it's
all
not
about
something you can
really
learn
educate.
overnight either,
No, it's a process. It's like how you handle people is like how you handle how you become a leader and how you handle people is just as important as balancing your budget. Because if you don't have a team around you, you don't actually win.
One other question I have for you, well, just also appreciate you kind of giving an insider look into some of your mentalities and stuff and starting this. But when I'm hearing you, I'm also hearing one other thing that I think is really important, just to name really quickly. And the question is just how important has reputation and sales pitch been for you? Because, RCOM does have a reputation around here, and that's something that has taken time to build and create, and it's now people know you. They know the model, they know that it works. But then also when you expanded, whether it's you're getting a new house or you're getting a new, contracted service, like when you created the relationship to get the dental piece taken care of, how important is it for you to actually be able to narrate to people, this is why you should partner with us. This is why you should invest in the building that we wanna open up. This is why you believe in the work we do. How important are those 2 things, your reputation and how you actually approach people and talk about the work in your success?
Yeah, it's interesting because I've struggled talking about it well, like putting all the pieces together in conversation because um, what's happened is philosophically what we do here, it really works for people that are looking for connection, right? Um, and so it's hard to actually describe it until you're actually in it. You know what I'm saying? So part of our reputation that has been built hasn't been necessarily from like our pitch or like how that looks, right? It's been from the people that receive care from us. They talk about other people. So really, at the end of the day, the reputation that I care about, where I'm concerned, the reputation I'm concerned about the most is like if somebody's treated well when they come through our doors.
It's interesting because it's almost like you're saying that the reputation, the quality actually becomes the sales pitch because it's told outside of you pitching it, right? So people come in and I can testify to that too because I know 100 people who have said to me that this program saved their life genuinely, and that the way that they were treated and the connection they found in here is the reason that they're alive and successful today. And so it's interesting to hear you say that because it won't be that way for every business, but for what you do, it's actually the quality is the
Well, if you
reputation
think
and the sales
about
pitch.
any successful business, customer service and customer care is paramount
Yeah.
to any successful. I don't care what it is. It's if you're selling vacuum cleaners, if you're it doesn't matter if you're selling lumber. It's like I go to places that are friendly to me.
Yeah.
Am I right? That's where you go. You go to places that like you feel welcomed at. You go to places, and that's really, but more importantly, for us, like, that is what treats trauma is connection, right? Like, the isolation, the depression from that, so if we can get people through the door, like, we can actually we gotta win right then, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how many people said, "I was sitting outside, across the street for 2, 3 days before I actually came in, and now I'm sitting there having a coffee," and, like, people are, like, look at me like a human being, you know what I'm saying? I don't know how many times we have people our staff members running somebody up the hospital, we're going to pick somebody up here, there, you know what I'm saying? It's like, we have, that's that reputationally, and so when and so also, the work that we have done and I have done, like, gives us remember the foundation that I was talking about? And so in this field and in this industry, I so there's I know for a fact that I, personally, am a passionate person and, like, like, understanding what I believe is right or wrong has sometimes put me at odds with other places and you know what I'm saying, things like that, but, like, that's why the most important thing to me is the people that come to our doors. That's it. Like, after that, like, if they start saying, "I get treated poorly coming in to treat," that's when I'm worried about our reputation. Does that make sense to you? And so, in that also, that philosophy also treat our clients tell other providers about it, and that's why they respond. That's why they feel good about it because they trust the same people. Right? So it's like that's to me has been the model is like connection and caring about people is the model, right? Like, cause when we feel cared about, we come to that. We wanna come back to it.
And I think an important takeaway, for this episode for everybody that's listening is to really, understand that it doesn't actually matter what your business is or what you're doing, that if you show up authentically and you actually care about the people you're serving, because even if you're cutting down trees, if you listen to what people want and you give them what they want and you treat them with respect, they're going to tell the next person about that experience and it's going to always generate more business for you. And that's something that in your line of work is a little bit more obvious perhaps to people, but maybe it's something that people who are looking to start in businesses don't think about. And I think about for me, thanking you for getting into your story a little bit more because I think it's so important for people to hear how somebody comes out of prison and comes out of everything that you endured in life and starts a successful business that also helps people. I think that's the best part about it is that it's not just a profitable business and you have employees you take care of that depend on you, but you actually send people out into the world, in a process of healing and better versions of themselves than when they walked in. And the fact that you've been able to do that and be successful at it is huge. But what I hope people take away from this episode more than anything is essentially three things that you said, right? Number one is come out with a plan, have it well thought out, but also when you fall, don't give up, right? Because you're going to have to fail more times than you succeed to get to the success. And that's something that I think way beyond business is just a life motto that we have to attach to. is if we learn from every failure, we don't actually ever fail. And then a second thing that I think people really should take away from you is also that have a long-term plan, right? Don't think about that I have to be successful in 6 months and I'm behind and I gotta buy a house this year and then I gotta make as much money as possible. And, that if that's the only thing you're thinking about, if you're not thinking about where you want it to be 10 years from now, then you're probably doomed to kind of squander the success as it comes. And the third thing that I really love that you said is that last piece, right? Is like a lot of times we feel like, oh, I got to pitch this, I got to pitch this, I got to sell it, I got to sell it. But actually, the truth of it is what's going to sell itself, no matter what you're doing. And if you open up a corner store, the truth is going to sell and keep business coming. And that's how you treat people, what your plan and your goal is, and how people feel when they leave whatever business it is that you're doing. And so I just want to thank you, man, and thank everybody that's listening. I hope people take something away from this. And I think, in future episodes, we can get into even some more specifics about how you've expanded to recovery housing and reentry and these other components. Because at the beginning, that might not have been the view or the vision, but the moment came and you said, that's something that can provide a positive service, but also be profitable for my business. So, just thanks, man, for sharing that part of your story with us. And I imagine that everybody who's listening to this episode, is walking away with some really key things. Yeah. So thanks for listening, everybody, and keep checking us out. Follow us.
Thank you so much.
Like, promote. We love you.